Sunday, happy Easter, April 17th, 2022. It's also Passover, I believe. I don't know about religions. Anyway, it's also some sort of pagan holiday, I'm assuming. Bless the evil bunny of death. Anyway, today we discuss Federico Fellini's Casanova from 1976 with your host, me, Professor Joe Rocco. Okay, so this is kind of like a Barry Lyndon-esque movie, except it's by Federico Fellini. And if you don't know Fellini, he's kind of a touchstone. Oop, the sun's coming out. You don't see that on other YouTube channels. The sun affecting the lighting. Except for on maybe some sort of show about the sun. Okay, anyway, or about lighting. Yeah, it's a Barry Lyndon-esque story, but told through Fellini. Now, Fellini is a touchstone for many filmmakers because he's incredibly surreal and visual. Visual to the point of pushing the medium to the next level, in my opinion. Not just surreal to be surreal, like some Boone-Wells stuff, or really kind of existential or over the top. Not that Fellini is over the top, but his symbolism is so beautiful and on point, and it's also based it in Roman Catholic imagery and pagan Rome too as well. So all of that stuff is needed into the nice meatball of a movie that he makes. If he's a director who cares more just about it's just the character and then the world happening around them. I feel like, and then through that you get a much bigger picture. And that's like what Herzog does and what a lot of the famous European directors do, as opposed to some of the more American styles like Spielberg or Hitchcock. Yes, I know he's British, but those styles where they're more plot driven. Not that those directors don't have good characters in them. That it's more about going from event to event. And they're also great visual guys. But this is like that next level where, the opening scene is a giant head of Venus, like giant, like 50 feet tall, 40 feet tall, raising out of the waters of Venice. This is the story of Casanova, so it's like the 1700s or whatever, 1800s. I don't even know when Casanova was around, 1700s, I assume. And then like all these people are like raising up for this festival, and then it like breaks, cracks, and then it just falls and sinks back down. And one of the last shots of it is just the eyes of Venus drowned underneath Venice. It's just like, okay, who's thinking of this stuff? So then Fellini, this the reason Donald Sutherland was cast was because Fellini said he had the eyes of a masturbator, which is great. I don't know 100% what that means, but. Anyway, this is Fellini's first film in English, but it still doesn't matter because he's doing that dubbing over. So the English people are speaking English, but sometimes he's even dubbing it over in English. And then if somebody else speaks another language, he just lets them speak another language, and then they dub it over in English, which is distracting for some people, but I think it adds to the surreal nature of his movies. And it's kind of a Fellini touchstone. So what we see there's a sex scene. In which him and another lady are to perform for like an aristocratic Frenchman who's behind the wall peeping through a little thing. And he knows that they're there. It's all kind of a setup. And in lieu of actual on-screen foreplay, they do kind of nutty, absurd, silly, like acrobatic, sexual, animalistic things and kind of flop around the room and do all sorts of stuff. But when he also takes out his giant mechanical music box that literally has a cock, like it's a bird shaped like a cock on it, and then it like goes whoop 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 whoop, it like is representative of his boner. It gets bigger and stuff. It's great. But all that being said, it's deliberately not titillating, in my opinion. Like it's all these sexual acts, but they're doing it in a way that's either silly or horrific, because it's not supposed to turn you on. He doesn't want to distract you from the message. Like, it's so bizarre, and everybody looks bizarre. Like, nobody has eyebrows, and he's got this weird haircut, and he wears everybody's wearing kind of strange garments that are not necessarily flattering. Anyway, So when he's done, the French guy's like, very well done, very well done. And he's like, well, I'm an engineer and a politician. I'm very educated. I can do economics and all this stuff. And they're like, no, no, no. We just want you for your sex. And I was like, aha, I get it. And then he is arrested for performing black magic, and it becomes this kind of episodic memoirs of him in jail, breaking in and out of jail, and all these, him remembering things from his past. It's all kind of just a hodgepodge, which actually works out really great. It doesn't matter because there's no linear plot. It's just trying to figure out, like, who is this character? When you say Casanova, you automatically think, like, womanizer, some sort of womanizer. That's all I really knew. And I was like, what does that even mean? And it's like, oh, yeah, you treat women like shit or whatever. I guess. But in this, it's different than that. He is enamored by women to an epic degree. And in the most Fellini move, he meets this giant woman. Like, literally, she's a giant. She's, like, say, 8 feet tall. I don't even know how they pulled it off visually. It's like the Hobbits compared to Gandalf or whatever. And it's some sort of, like, this duality he has about women, right? Like, his, like, creepy sexual desires mixed with, like, it's the sacred and profane, which is a thing that he deals with a lot. And I think it's so fucking cool, and it is in the soul of every man. So there's all this. It's so great. They're dancing around like birds. And then when it comes to the sex, it's almost always just, like, from the woman's perspective, missionary up at Donald Sutherland's horrible sweating face with makeup and hair, and him just going, and you go, oh, that's right. It doesn't matter how, like, we all do it the same way, or that's kind of like the thing is that once he gets into it, it's just this, like, you can get rid of all the elegant tantric foreplay theatrics and stuff. Like, when it comes down to it, it's quite just a brutalistic thing, and it's a vulgar, poetic something. But ultimately, he at one point, women there's 3 souls, and the woman only has 2 parts to their soul. They're missing the noble part. And he disagrees with that. So he defends women a bunch throughout the movie in kind of a silly, I'm not saying this is a feminist movie. There's, like, whatever. We don't need to get into that. I hate how I always have to talk about, like, fucking PCs, or I feel like I need to talk about, like, the political or the PC or the gender angle with it. When I just want to say that this movie's fucking cool and totally a trip. The funniest scene is, and this is totally sexist, an old woman is like, I need you to come inside me, and I will give birth to a man, and that man will be me, and he will live forever. And he's like, no. And then they're like, I have tons of money. And he's like, all right, fine. And so he does it, but he can't stay into it, we'll say. He cannot stay erect. So he has a young woman who's just off to the side, like, shaking her ass at him. And, like, every once in a while he'll be like, I'll be right back, and goes over and, like, humps her a little bit and then comes back so that he can. And it's really comical the way they set it up. It's fucking funny. And then ultimately he falls in love and loses that love. And that's really where we see where the root of his monsterhood comes from. It's very much like Barry Lyndon, like, where he was spurned at an early age and went, okay, I'm done with this. I'm done with the love part of it. I'm just going to raise up my ranks and educate myself and fuck my way to the top or whatever. But it's Fellini is against it too. He's anti this womanizing attitude and living for the low pleasures, as they would say in philosophy, in that his life was very phony. And ultimately he shows that with, like, eventually he makes him falls in love with what's her name, Roliba or something like that, and it's a woman who's a robot. It's like a wind-up woman, and he has sex with her, and he ends up spending the rest of his life with her. And it's crazy. It's the last, like, 5-minute dream sequence is just so beautiful and amazing. And Fellini claimed that this was in 1976. He said, this is the best movie I ever made. Now, I don't agree with that by any means. I think probably it's in his top 10, but he was really disappointed when American audiences were like, what the hell is this? Because he thought it was going to be like an American hit because it was in English and Donald Sutherland blah, blah, blah. I mean, he was kind of the guy who ripped the lid off it with La Dolce Vita in 1960 being like one of the first big crossovers. Although Kurosawa had a few. That was the one where people were like, European cinema, eh? I think they made the Oscar that year and gave it to him for that. And I might be wrong about nearly everything I say. But there's also a thing he does when he's preparing to have sex at one point, Donald Sutherland. He's like, obviously it's something to clear your sinuses. It's obviously not real, but he pinches his nose, stands on his tippy toes, and thrusts himself upwards and goes. And I was just like, what a fun movie to make, just to like be able to add that sort of stuff. What's happening right now? And they don't tell you what it is. It was just me thinking like, oh, he's clearing his sinuses so that he doesn't have like a runny nose. So he has like clear breathing before he has sex, you know? Anyway, if you're into artsy, fartsy cinema, and if you're Amadi, who's the only person in my life right now as a student I have who talks to me about Fellini. Nobody else is talking to me about Fellini. So I was like, oh, I should review one and that I hadn't seen. And I did this, and because she's a student at VU, and we both have that box set of Fellini, but this is one of the movies that's not in it. So it's good. I have a few students at BC that are into the European movies as well, and it's fun to talk about that, the international stuff. And I'm gonna review this movie soon that I heard talked about, and then I showed it to a student. They're like, "Yeah, that's awesome." Sort of The Stranger, an anime film. So that's all coming up, and because I heard them talking about it on Corridor Crew. So, I've gone long. I've gone too long. Nobody wants to watch a 12-minute video about Fellini. This will be probably my lowest numbers because nobody even knows this movie exists, I feel like. Let me grade it. This is a tough one to grade because it's on a Fellini scale. As a Fellini movie, I can only give it this, which is, you always got to listen to my caveats because they're a big part of. Did it not play? They're a big part of it because if this movie had like come out this year, it would have been an A-. But for a Fellini movie, it's a little bit overlong and a little bit, maybe a B+. B+. It's a Fellini B+, which is still fucking amazing. And like I said, if it had come out this year, I probably would have given it an A, because nobody's doing stuff like this. But compared to his other films, it's not as tight. Somebody needs to rein him in, I don't know who that person is because I don't know enough about the history of him, but somebody get on it posthumously. You can like and subscribe. If you like to subscribe, I'm here every day. You're here whenever you'd like to be. But just know, I'm here for you. It's the Italian Barry Lyndon, sort of. Check it out. You can watch it nowhere. I'd watch it on a Blu-ray that I bought. Bye.